Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: passport stamps are being phased out. What does that mean for the future of travel? The coming Labour government has just revealed how dangerous it will be. Students' visa worries over university glitch. Pakistan extremely disappointed over Cricket World Cup visa delay by India for media and fans. The UK airports that charge passengers the most for basic add-ons. Passport stamps are being phased out. What does that mean for the future of travel? ABC. Several countries, including Singapore, have stopped using passport stamps, opting instead for digital systems and facial recognition technology. It is hoped that these changes will improve border security and make travel safer. The European Union (EU) is considering adopting similar measures to improve its border security and speed up queues. Border security expert Dalbir Ahlavat believes that physical passports will be phased out in the next 10 years, with digital passports becoming the norm. However, there is still work to be done before this is fully implemented. The coming Labour government has just revealed how dangerous it will be. Telegraph. The Labour Party conference in Liverpool has revealed a desolate new chapter of rudderless centrism as the party struggles to answer the question of how social democratic parties can deliver on their promises of mass prosperity in an increasingly volatile world. The party's plans for an entrepreneurial state and a green industrial plan are described as calamities in the making, unlikely to deliver the growth and productivity gains needed to save the country from its torpor. Labour also lacks a comprehensive plan for reforming the NHS and fixing Britain's broken social care system. On the issue of immigration, the party is described as out of its depth, with no policy to deter new arrivals and a failure to understand the real choice is between fixing the broken international asylum system and enforcing border controls through populism. The article concludes that the next Labour government has already failed, having had more than a decade to think through the flaws in the social democratic project. Students' visa worries over university glitch. BBC. 3 international students at Coventry University are at risk of deportation after a technical glitch prevented them from submitting a final exam. Fahim Orakzai and twins Uzair and Umair Kanasro, all from Pakistan, were unable to electronically upload their work before the deadline. The university said it found no evidence of problems on its system. The students fear that the 12-week appeals process and the need to resit the exam will mean they receive their results too late to apply for a graduate visa, which would enable them to remain in the UK for a further 2 years. Pakistan extremely disappointed over Cricket World Cup visa delay by India for media and fans. Associated Press. The Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, has expressed disappointment over the delay in issuing Indian visas to Pakistani journalists and fans for the World Cup. The PCB has asked Pakistan's Foreign Secretary to take up the matter with India's Home Ministry. Around 50 Pakistan journalists, accredited by the International Cricket Council, are uncertain when they will receive their visas. The Pakistan team received their visas less than 36 hours before their scheduled departure to Hyderabad last month. The PCB has reminded the ICC and the Board of Control for Cricket in India of their obligations to guarantee visas for fans and journalists of participating teams. The PCB has also asked the government to evaluate player security in India. It is unclear how many Pakistan fans will be issued visas for the game against India on Saturday. The UK airports that charge passengers the most for basic add-ons. Telegraph. UK airports are increasingly charging passengers for add-on services such as fast lane tickets at security, speedy passport control, plastic bags for liquids, and airport drop-off privileges. The charges vary across airports, with Stansted charging the most, £23, for its add-on services, followed by Gatwick, £20. However, Consumer Magazine Which? Questions the value of these add-ons, as many airports do not guarantee that fast-track queues will be quicker. Heathrow and Luton airports are planning trials allowing passengers to book slots at security for extra peace of mind. Speedy passport control options are offered at 6 of the UK's 15 biggest airports, with prices ranging from £5 to £10. Most airports offer plastic bags for liquids for free, except for Liverpool and Newcastle airports, which charge £1. Only London City and Birmingham airports allow passengers to drop off for free, with all other airports charging for drop-off services. The prices for airport lounge access vary depending on the airport, with Newcastle's Aspire Lounge being the most expensive at £39.99. Rwandan asylum system woefully deficient, Supreme Court told The Independent. Lawyers representing migrants facing deportation to Rwanda have told the UK Supreme Court that the country is an authoritarian, one-party state with a woefully deficient asylum system. The Home Office is challenging a Court of Appeal ruling in June that the UK's multi-million-pound deal with Rwanda over the processing of asylum claims was unlawful. The government argues that transfers of asylum seekers to Rwanda will only take place with the consent of Rwandan authorities and will be low in number. The UN Refugee Agency has warned against the transfer of asylum seekers to Rwanda under the UK-Rwanda arrangement. Go West, far-right German party breaks out of eastern strongholds. Financial Times. The far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, party has become a nationwide force following strong performances in 2 regional elections in Germany. The AfD, which has been labeled extremist and whose leaders have been accused of using Nazi slogans, gained 14.6% of the vote in Bavaria and 18.4% in Hesse. The results were disastrous for the country's governing coalition parties, which saw their vote shares shrink. Factors behind the AfD's rise include frustration with government policies on climate change, immigration, and energy costs. The party also benefited from the squabbling between the coalition parties. How is China's digital yuan rollout progressing in 2023? South China Morning Post. China's central bank digital currency, CBDC, has been rapidly gaining traction, with 26 cities participating in a pilot scheme and 5.6 million merchants registered to use the digital yuan. Transactions have reached 950 million, worth 1.8 trillion Chinese yuan, $250 billion, up from 100 billion Chinese yuan the previous year. The eCNY has now been made accessible to foreigners and civil servants in the country. The People's Bank of China is also joining forces with 4 other central banks as part of the mBridge platform to accelerate the use of the digital yuan for international settlements and reduce cross-border fund transfer fees. UK's Rwanda migration policy comes under Supreme Court scrutiny. Financial Times. The legality of the UK government's plans to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda is being challenged at the UK Supreme Court. In July, the Court of Appeal ruled that the policy was unlawful because Rwanda could not be considered a safe destination for refugees. The government argues that safeguards have been put in place to ensure the secure and safe transfer of asylum seekers, but critics argue that the Rwanda policy is inherently difficult to achieve lawfully. The court ruling is expected in November. This church opened its doors to refugees turned away from the city's shelters. Months later, it says it's buckling under the costs. The Toronto Star. Dominion Church in Toronto has been providing shelter for refugees since July, and has been overwhelmed with the need for assistance. The church has been run on donations and volunteer labor, with the City of Toronto contributing $150,000 to support those living there. However, this funding only covers 11 days' worth of expenses. There are currently more than 1,500 people being housed outside the shelter network in Toronto, and around 40% of the city's shelter spaces are occupied by refugees. The church is now at maximum capacity, with 150 cots located inches apart in the prayer room. Refugees have to share 2 showers, with limited hot water. Although the church is only operating as a temporary measure until the city and federal government find long-term solutions, many refugees have been sheltered there since the summer. The church says it costs a minimum of $13,000 per day to house and feed the refugees, which it cannot afford. The church could be forced to turn people away if alternative arrangements are not made soon. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world, bringing you the latest news from across the globe. Today, we discuss the phasing out of passport stamps, the challenges faced by the Labour Party, visa issues for international students, cricket fans, and journalists, airport add-on charges, deficiencies in Rwanda's asylum system, the rise of the far-right in Germany, the progress of China's digital yuan, the scrutiny of the UK's deportation plans, and the struggles faced by a church providing shelter to refugees in Toronto. Now, let's dive into these news stories. First up, passport stamps are becoming a thing of the past as digital systems and facial recognition technology take over. While this may improve border security and make travel safer, it will still take some time before it is fully implemented. So, don't worry, you can still collect those passport stamps for a little while longer. Next, we turn to the Labour Party in the UK, which seems to be struggling to find its way forward. Their plans for an entrepreneurial state and a green industrial plan are being criticized as unlikely to deliver the promised economic growth. Additionally, their lack of comprehensive plans for the NHS, social care, and immigration have raised concerns about their ability to govern effectively. Looks like the Labour Party has some work to do if they want to win over voters. In other news, 3 international students at Coventry University are facing deportation due to a technical glitch that prevented them from submitting their final exam. They fear that the lengthy appeals process will mean they miss out on the opportunity to apply for a graduate visa. Let's hope a solution can be found for these students, because nobody wants their future plans to be derailed by a technical glitch. Moving on to sports, the Pakistan Cricket Board is expressing disappointment over the delay in issuing visas to Pakistani journalists and fans for the Cricket World Cup. They have asked their government to evaluate player security in India and remind the ICC and the Board of Control for Cricket in India of their obligations. Let's hope the visa issues can be resolved and everyone can enjoy the game on Saturday. Now, let's take a look at airport add-on charges in the UK. It seems like airports are finding new ways to charge passengers for services like fast lane tickets, speedy passport control, and plastic bags for liquids. While some of these services can be useful, it's important to question their value and whether they actually make the travel experience any better. After all, nobody wants to pay extra for a service that doesn't deliver what it promises. Shifting our focus to the legal system, lawyers representing migrants facing deportation to Rwanda have described the country's asylum system as woefully deficient. They argue that Rwanda is an authoritarian state and that the UK's deal with the country is unlawful. The Supreme Court will now decide the legality of the deportation plans. It's a complex issue that raises questions about the treatment of asylum seekers and the responsibilities of countries involved. In Germany, the far-right Alternative for Germany party has become a nationwide force, gaining significant votes in regional elections. The party's rise can be attributed to frustrations with government policies on climate change, immigration, and energy costs. However, their extremist label and use of Nazi slogans have raised concerns. It's a reminder that politics can be a volatile arena, and parties that tap into people's frustrations can gain support quickly. Now, let's turn to China, where the digital yuan is gaining momentum. With millions of transactions and thousands of merchants already registered, China's central bank digital currency is making its mark. It's an interesting development that could have major implications for international settlements and cross-border fund transfers. Will we see a digital yuan in our wallets soon? Who knows, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. Back in the UK, the Supreme Court is scrutinizing the government's plans to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. The Court of Appeal previously ruled that the policy was unlawful, and now the Supreme Court will make the final decision. It's a case that highlights the complexities of migration policies and the need for careful consideration when dealing with vulnerable individuals. Lastly, we come to a story from Toronto, where a church has been providing shelter to refugees. However, the church is struggling to cover the costs and may have to turn people away if alternative arrangements are not made soon. It's a heartbreaking situation that underscores the ongoing challenges faced by refugees and the need for long-term solutions. So, there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the latest news. Now, it's your turn to join the conversation. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions or insights to share? Let's keep the discussion going, because in the 6 Degrees world, everyone's perspective matters. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.